Hi, Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the May 2024 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Pisces for Sun and Rising placements. Hi, Pisces. I saved your video to do last today on this new moon in Taurus because by the time I get through the whole zodiac and I do the horoscope for Pisces, I'm exhausted and I always feel like you guys get the least of me. So I put this video off to where I could only focus on you and give you my full attention. Um, May is a great month for Pisces energy. Let's talk about it. So we have, today's May 7th. I'm behind on getting these videos out, but today, May 7th, we have a new moon happening at 18 degrees of Taurus, which is really positive. So Taurus energy is fixed earth. It's the sign that rules the second house that has to do with our relationship to money, material stability, self-worth, our relationship to life, nature. It's ruled by Venus. We also have Venus in Taurus right now as we're entering Taurus season, which is a really harmonious energy. And the reason why it's so auspicious for Pisces is that Taurus and Pisces make what's called a sextile to each other in astrology, which is a harmonious aspect. So the water and earth signs are considered to be on the yin polarity, which is more of, kind of the internal world, the we would say like the divine mother energy, and Pisces being kind of more of this spiritual energy. This Venus is exalted in Pisces, so the ruler of Taurus likes being in the sign of Pisces. They make this harmonious aspect, and Pisces and Taurus sextiling and having this frequency is really great for art. It's really great for music, artistic projects. It's also really positive for money manifestation and anything that kind of enables you to take what's in the ether around you and envision kind of what you want in your life in a very fantastical way and see how you can pull it down into the earthly realm, into reality. So, every May we start out in Taurus season. So if you are Pisces dominant, meaning your sun and rising is in Pisces, this might be a time of year where you tend to feel a little bit more like things are coming together. And you can think about it, it's that sextile. And anytime anything's in Taurus, it's making that sextile to something in your chart. Of course, this is all degree based. So it depends on what degree your sun and rising is. But right now we have the sun at 12 degrees on it's 11 degrees starting out the month of May. And then, the sun will continue to move through Taurus before entering Gemini. And we're starting the month out with Venus at, I believe, 3 degrees, 2 degrees of Taurus. So, um, yeah, those early degree points are getting hit at the beginning of the month. So a couple other energies that we have going on. We've had Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus for quite some time, and Jupiter is actually going to be finishing up its stint in Taurus and entering Gemini. We're going to talk about that here in a second, a little bit later. And then we still have Neptune in your sign of Pisces, and then we have Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto's already been in Aquarius for a minute, but we will highlight that at the beginning of May, on May 2nd, Pluto stations retrograde until October. So the area of the horoscope that Pluto is making its way through Aquarius for the next 20 years of the Pisces horoscope is the house that Pisces traditionally rules. It's the 12th house. And Pluto transits here are very existential. We tend to reflect a lot on the meaning of life and what we feel like our soul purpose is. This is a time where we might begin to really like the concept of death and rebirth and reincarnation is already a huge theme with Pluto, but when it's passing through the 12th house, we really start to confront mortality and what spirituality and death means to us. The 12th house is very existential, so it's often associated with existential dread, existential crises. How do we make peace with the truth of what this experience is, what it is? Like, the fact that we, even if you're not necessarily a spiritual person, which I highly doubt if you're watching a horoscope video, you're not a spiritual person, but, even people that are very science and agnostic or atheist, like we know that there's a physics to reality. We know that there's a physics to energy. We know that energy never dies scientifically. It just changes and morphs and transmutes, which is very Pluto. But that still with that knowledge, we know that we in this physical form are going to pass away at some point. And whatever we believe in, whether our soul consciousness goes to a magical place or to a horrible place, or, whether it reincarnates or transmutes, or whether it just is in the ether and goes into the ether, like whatever we believe, when we're going through a 12th house transit, we really start to reflect on those themes. And Pisces, you naturally reflect on those themes as a Pisces. But with Pluto passing through this area and stationing retrograde, maybe some way that we've perceived things begins to change. There was a period of time where I was really open-minded to the fact that reincarnation was a possibility, but I didn't necessarily believe in it. Like if you were to ask me, do you believe in reincarnation? I would say, I believe it's a possibility. I don't know if I believe in it as like a belief system. And I think the longer that I do astrology and the longer that I work through my own spiritual process, I feel like I've started to lean more on I believe in reincarnation. Do I think that everybody reincarnates as a human on Earth? No, I don't. But do I believe that we reincarnate in our energy? Yes, I do. Do I think sometimes that takes the form of a human? Yes, I do. And these are beliefs that have gotten more firm for me as I've gotten more in different modalities of my astrology practice, to be honest, and my own self, like my own experience with reality. But I think that, me being Sagittarius rising, I also know that those things are subject to change based off of my own evolution of self. And so with Pluto passing through the 12th house and stationing retrograde, we might be in a position where our previous beliefs or our previous ideas around mortality and spirituality and kind of our existential ideas are shifting in some way. And maybe they're getting a little bit less fixed in some areas and more fixed in other areas, which is very Aquarius. Aquarius is a fixed air sign. The other thing that can happen here is, I'm in recovery and these get posted on the sobercurator.com, which is, a sober recovery focused blog. And so, if I see things in the horoscope that lend itself towards the recovery journey, I like to make note of it. And Pluto passing through the 12th house and stationing retrograde through the 12th house. The 12th house does represent escapism through alcohol or substances. The 12th house represents a lot through escapism, through spirituality, artistic projects, romantic kind of feelings, not necessarily relationship romance, but, like Lana Del Rey, I feel like is such an example of the way this feeling feels in terms of like, I mean, if you hate Lana Del Rey, we can talk about like the Smiths or Mazzy Star, like these kinds of musicians that are leaning into this melancholy, like romantic chasing a feeling that's very Piscean. It's very water sign. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces all kind of have this element, but Pisces really does. Pisces very much like, get me out of this simulation, dissolve reality, and let's lean into these feelings. And that's what drugs do for us. They kind of melt everything away and like lend us into this other simulation or a different space. Pluto here, we could be, if we're in recovery, we could be reflecting a lot on how we relate to recovery. And maybe there's changes that we feel inclined to make. I know a lot of people that were in AA and they go through some period where they don't want to be in AA anymore and their recovery journey takes a shift towards a new modality. There's a lot of people that are very Buddhist centered that end up leaving things like AA to go be a Buddhist or maybe join a church, or they do something that's like a hybrid. I had a different type of journey where I did not feel inclined to do AA when I started to get sober. I spent the first 8 years of my sobriety without AA, but I leaned into spirituality. And so I would say like astrology, tarot, Buddhism, like my spiritual witchcraft, like all of my spiritual practices were part of my sobriety. And then just this last year, at the end of the year, through all of my life changes, I wanted the community of AA, and I'm doing the big book and the steps, and now that feels in alignment for me all these years later, but it didn't feel in alignment for me then. And so those are just some examples, anecdotally, that are kind of in theme for this Pluto retrograde and where it's hitting in the Pisces chart. And this also could tie into the types of people we surround ourselves with in Aquarius. We're very community centered and kind of are the people in our lives reflecting the state of being or the journey that we want to be on. So there's a lot of existential questioning happening for Pisces during this Pluto retrograde. Am I living in alignment with my life purpose? May 7th, we have our new moon at 18 degrees Taurus. Like I mentioned before, that's today. That's making a really harmonious aspect to your, ascendant, your Piscean energy. And so the area of the chart that we have this new moon with Venus and the sun and Uranus and Jupiter also here is the area that rules communication. So this is the third house. And so this is a really positive time for you to set intentions around your perspectives on things, how you communicate. Pisces energy can sometimes be very ungrounded and can kind of spiral out emotionally or get into the fantasy of things. Pisces is more prone to illusions or deceptions around perspectives and ideas. Like you build up a fantasy, and then when that fantasy isn't what you wanted it to be, it's very disappointing. Taurus is not not saying Taurus doesn't have this amazing ability to imagine things. It does. It's very artistic and creative. But Taurus is rooted in earth. It's rooted in reality. It's rooted in what's practical and pragmatic and kind of what the facts are, the way that it is versus the way that it could be. And so there might be something happening for you with this Taurus transit and with this new moon where it's really positive for you to set intentions around how am I relating to what is, how am I relating to the reality of my life, the reality of the situation, and am I willing to see perspectives that are more reality focused and more grounded in what the here and now has to offer versus what I'm fantasizing or envisioning. And that's really positive. It's positive to be present. It's positive to I think one of the grounding exercises my therapist introduced to me when you're feeling anxious and you're kind of spiraling out in your ether of your mind is to just get really presently focused on something in the environment, the color of it, how it feels to your hand, the smell, just get really focused on what is happening in your immediate and focus on an object and, describe the object, touch the object. And that brings you back into the center of where you're physically at and can be really positive for grounding. So, this is what you're being called to do right now is figuring out how to ground the mind and how to be more centered in the present moment. And, because we have this Pluto transit, it's somewhere that's very existential. One of the things to think about is Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto and Mars. Scorpio is the sign that rules death. Taurus is Venus, it's life, and so I have a Pisces moon, and one of the journeys that I've had to go on is how do I put more energy into life? I was always so encapsulated and curious about death and curious about the other side and curious about the beyond. I spent most of my youth being more interested in what happens after this life and what's out there beyond than living in life, living taking this life for granted. And regardless of what you believe, this is going to end at some point. And for me, I was always like, good, like I can't wait for that. And I think that my journey, as somebody that's very existential has been to learn how to value life. How do I value what's in front of me? How do I value the gift that this experience is? Because I'm only going to be doing this once, in terms of being in this, form. So I think that the Taurus energy is really positive for you to kind of lean into how can I value life? How can I value what is, what is here, the trees, the sun, the earth, there's so much about humanity that sucks. So get out of humanity. Think about life as in animals, plants, birds, flowers, food. Taurus is very connected to food. So those are things, the sensation and experience, the pleasure of experiencing physical touch, those things. Okay, so let's move on from all of that talk and let's talk about some of the other shifts that we have. So Mercury and Mars are still in Aries starting out the month, and that energy for you has been hitting in your house of finances. And so, we had Mercury retrograde here. We had, a big stellium in Aries. There was probably a lot of challenges around money and feeling financially stable. And that's why this Taurus energy too, this new moon is really good for manifesting around that. Mercury is now direct, so at least we've got direct motion here. And then Mars passing through the second house in Aries is really good for taking action when it comes to your money and putting yourself in more of a leadership position around your finances. However, Mars is still considered to be a malefic where challenges and obstacles come. So, you might be able to take a lot of action in manifesting the type of things that you want to bring in financially, but it is still, not with its challenges. And also, when we have Mars here, money can sometimes come as quickly as it goes, or it can go as quickly as it comes. So you really need to be mindful with your spending. But I think that the Taurus energy is kind of here to help balance that out in some way. Mars is going to be in Aries for the entire month, and then Mercury is going to be in Aries until the 15th, and then it's going to enter Taurus, and it's going to enter the third house of communication. And hopefully this is very grounding for you and kind of relates back to the theme of getting centered in your mind and doing exercises that ground you more. After that, on May 20th, we're going to enter Gemini season. It's a totally different energy than where we've been in Taurus season. So Gemini is the ruler of the fourth house in the Pisces horoscope. So this is the area that represents your home and relationship to your family life. Gemini makes a square to Pisces. So, oh my gosh, my dog looks so cute right now. Oh my Lord, he's being hilarious. So, Pisces and Taurus make this harmonious sextile. Gemini and Pisces actually make a square. So it's a harder energy. It's more tense. I'm really glad that Mercury is going to be in Taurus during Gemini season for Pisces, because that's going to help ground you while we have more of this challenging energy that makes you maybe more scattered or more, there's a lot more possibility for you to overthink and get a little more existentially blown out, especially with this energy making that trine to Pluto, where Pluto is. So, Gemini season isn't bad. It's supposed to be a really good season, but it does, kind of amp up some of that overthinking, over fantasizing energy that Pisces is prone to. So you are going to have to work extra hard at staying grounded. But, having it in the home sphere is good in that it kind of centers you to kind of focus more on your home life and communication around the home, the way you feel in the home, your perspective on home, and your relationships with family. So the sun's going to be moving into that area on May 20th. Then on May 23rd, we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. It's going to be opposing that sun in Gemini. And this is highlighting the area of career and work for you. So full moons are a great time to release and let go of energy. They're also a great time for manifesting and calling things in. So whatever you want to release and let go when it comes to your career or work life, and whatever you want to call in, the May 23rd full moon is a really positive time for that. Sagittarius is all about values and beliefs, and it's making that square to Pisces, and so it's another energy, and it's going to be sextiling that Pluto. So values and beliefs around what you do in the world and who you are is definitely a big theme for you during the end of May. Like, am I in alignment with what I'm doing? Maybe you're thinking of a major career change, and it's because what you've been doing isn't in alignment anymore. Things are changing. Things are changing for you in that way. It could also be, if you're not doing a major career change, just some way that you want to evolve within what you've been doing. So there's a lot of that. All right, let's see. After that, we have Venus entering the Gemini party in the fourth house around the 24th. And this is a really positive energy. Venus, rules Taurus, but then when Venus is in Gemini, it's actually in its esoteric rulership. And this is the Lover's card in the tarot. So it represents the conjunction of self and the conjunction with another. And in the fourth house, we might feel like we want to beautify our home. We want to make our home feel, like a safe space that is aesthetically pleasing. It gives us a sense of comfort and connection. Maybe we're trying to heal ancestral wounds karmically during this. Maybe we feel like we want to connect with family more. All of that kind of stuff is highlighted with Venus passing through Gemini the rest of May. And then shortly after that, Jupiter on the 25th is going to be entering Gemini. And this is a big deal because we've had Jupiter in Taurus for the last year. And now Jupiter is moving out of Taurus and entering Gemini, where it's in detriment. And it's going to be in Gemini for the next year. And it's going to be hitting the fourth house for the Pisces horoscope. So totally new energy. Your home life is emphasized for the rest of May and the beginning of June. So there's a lot of expansion and growth. Some of you might feel like you are wanting to move. Maybe you've already moved, and this is about expansion and growth within where you're moving. There's a lot of change around the home and how you perceive what home means to you. For some people, home is not a place, it's a state of being. I personally am working on that a lot right now too. I think that I put home into other people and places, and I've been working on home being more of a state of being. And so in Gemini, that could also be something that you're reflecting on. What does home mean to you? All right, Pisces, I think this was a good breakdown for you this month. I am going to leave you here. If you want a bigger breakdown on the other transits of May, I do a May 2024 astrology forecast video that's general, that is at the beginning of this playlist. I also offer one-on-one sessions, astrology and tarot focused. And if you want to book a session with me, you can email me at analisa6@ladyofleisure.com. That will be in the description box on YouTube. And if you want to know when I am posting videos, you can hit like, subscribe to get notified. All right, thanks, and I will see you all next month.